So I now have the pleasure of introducing a fellow New Yorker. Mr. Americo Gonzalez Aquino is a transportation design principal at HDR. Thanks HDR for your sponsorship. With over 40 years of experience, he specializes in transportation architecture and has lived and worked in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Toronto, yes, PR, Toronto, New York City, and by the end of the year, Chicago. With that, I'll pass it off to Americo.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my story is about electric buses and how they are changing the landscape of public transit systems. It's titled, Beyond the Obvious, How Zero Emission Buses Are Leveling the Playing Field. Zero emission buses are great. I think we can all agree on that. They're more sustainable, resilient, and more affordable. They have the benefits of less emissions, less greenhouse gases, and they're quieter, easier to operate, easier to maintain as well, right? The electric buses, they also improve the environment, producing all these less gases, and it's better for underserved communities as well that are sort of impacted by all the buses and the fumes and things like that. And then we get to the urban part, and this is where the story is sort of leaning to, not so much about the buses. So the buses can change the way transit is implemented in urban areas. And this is New York City, where the buses run right through the middle of the city, all right? Just swapping buses, a diesel bus for an electric bus, is an improvement, but there can be a lot more. So just stepping back a little and looking at the vehicles we have to select right now, we have the rubber tire vehicles like the buses, we have the streetcars and the trams, we have light rail, and we have the heavy rail. And then we have commuter vehicles as well, commuter rail. So we have the normal commuter rail, we have high-speed rail, the American version, the Acela, and then we have different high-speed rails like the European version, the TGV, and then we get into the stations as well. So this station that we just saw was Satolas in France. Now looking at stations in more urban and dense environments, we see that the design right here is sort of not trying to show off too much, but to be transparent and highlight the historical context around it in this urban environment. Or we have stations like this one here. This is the New York region, Cornell Bus Terminal, where the station has practically nothing around it. And it was built in anticipation of development that was going to come after that. And it did occur. The development is starting to come around it. But it's really not about the stations or the vehicles. It's really about the journey, the transit journey, getting from one place to another and getting there efficiently and safely. And this is where the story is now sort of leaning to. And this story is based on a project that was proposed in New York City that was going to connect Brooklyn and Queens. It's a Brooklyn-Queens connector. It was planned as a LRT, and it's been around since the 90s. It's gone up and down, you know, it didn't progress too much. And part of the problem was, it was developer-focused, championed, and they wanted an LRT, even though the studies said that a BRT would be better. But they wanted to push ahead, and in the end, the project died. Even just doing this presentation, I got more notices. It's dead, it's going nowhere. So I thought, well, and one of the reasons was, you know, they wanted to push streetcars because they saw it flashier, like the Toronto streetcars. It was better for development. Property values would increase. They didn't want a bus that they saw as just another New York City bus. But it probably would have been better. But maybe now it can be better. Looking at LRT, the LRT, if we would have done it, you know, you have the steel rails messing up the street. you have the catenary wires as well. And here they photograph nicely, but they are a mess. With the BRT, they wouldn't have had all that. It would have been nicer, cleaner connection. And the vehicles have changed. So what used to be a boxy streetcar, the one on the left in Toronto, is now a streamlined, more elegant, longer streetcar in Toronto as well. And then the image on the right is actually a bus. So the buses have also morphed a little to become more elegant. This BRT looks like an LRT. It's beautiful. This is a Van Hool BRT. It's planned for France. So the story sort of goes to, well, what if that Brooklyn-Queens connector would have been planned with a bus like this? It probably would have gone through. And then looking toward the future in other places, when we start planning other cities, like here in Indianapolis, where we've been doing some studies, the electric buses and BRTs are becoming more affordable. And these projects that probably would not have been viable in other times are now becoming more viable. So the next steps, community outreach. Doing this early is key to any project. Getting to understand the needs of each community, their behaviors, their expectations, their aspirations. And we get to where we started, the journey. Can we get there efficiently? Is it something convenient, or are you inconvenienced by the journey? Is it something you would recommend to a friend? Would you do it every day? Then we get to the journey as well, the experience within that journey, the time between where you start your journey and where you end. Is that something engaging as well? And all this sort of comes around first for full circle to what it is, what the transit experience should be, and what these projects can be in the end. Sort of in closing, I think the zero emission buses are a great new tool that we have now. It opens a huge amount of possibilities for development in cities that have dense urban environments and cities that probably don't have systems and could have them now. Thank you.